Welcome to the Crypto Podcast. You can find all our episodes on thecryptopodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and YouTube. You find the links in the podcast description. I've got 4 other podcasts: the Learn Polish podcast, the Meditation podcast to help you chill, Awakening podcast to expose fraud and corruption, but with solutions. And there's another one, the Speaking podcast, to help you become a better speaker. As well as being a podcasting coach, you'll find everything on bio.link/podcaster. Today, my guest, please welcome Zachary Daniel.
Thanks, Roy.
I know you're an author and you've done a lot of different things, but I always prefer the guest. You might let the listeners know. Who's Zachary?
Yeah. So I'm Zachary Daniel. I am an author. I'm coming out with a debut novel, Manifest Destiny, but my passion is crypto and cryptocurrency. My educational background, graduated in nuclear medicine and then transitioned to finance, funny enough, after that, and started my own firm, where I am now an investment advisor with that specialty in digital assets. And yeah, I've done a lot in the crypto space, from mining, ran a Bitcoin ATM company for some time, all the hands-on stuff with NFTs and DeFi. So, I'm really excited to be on the podcast, and I really appreciate you having me.
Excellent. So first of all, your studies, because I had never heard of that. Nuclear medicine, is that like you nuke somebody to get rid of some disease or something? Tell me, what's that all about?
Yeah, it's a little bit to do with Chernobyl. No. Yeah, nuclear medicine is really, really interesting. It's kind of it's a kind of imaging field. So if you know MRIs or CTs, nuclear medicine's a little bit different than that. MRIs and CTs would be more like bone structure, body structure, bones, tendons, ligaments. Nuclear medicine is all about like function. So we'll take nuclear isotopes, radiation, combine it with a pharmaceutical, and then inject it to people, make them radioactive.
Sure,
they'll go off. They'll go, if they go to an airport, they're gonna get like seized. So they'll be radioactive for some time. Not too harmful, but it allows us to image like certain body systems that you can't do with any other imaging tool. So one of our most popular would be the PET scan, which is basically, we have a nuclear sugar. We inject it in your body, and cancer cells, tumor cells take up sugar rapidly. So then, since it's tagged with radioisotope, we can image and see where that cancer or tumor is, if it's there. Get a really detailed scan. So.
And
we do all different body systems.
At night after taking that?
No, it's not like the Simpsons where you got the Homer holding the glowing radiation, but no, but it is intimidating. I mean, it's they come in big lead boxes, and it is radiation. So some of our scans do have very high dosages and treatments. So yeah, it's interesting. So I loved it, but thing is, I love finance and crypto more. So
and before we go into that, because while I'm doing my research, I see you wrestling crocodiles, and I'm not talking about tiny little crocodiles. I'm talking crocodiles that are, I don't know, are they 5 foot or something like that? I'm like, not if you gave me 10 bitcoins, I would not do that.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
No, that's fair. No one's ever brought. That's funny. No one's ever. No, you've obviously done your research, because no one's ever brought that up. No, that was a heck of a time. I would never do it again, but I was going to Colorado with some friends, and I saw, I was looking for things to do, and I saw an advertisement for Gator wrestling classes, and I was like, Gator wrestling classes, like, how intense could they be? This is probably like gators without teeth, little small guys, whatever. And my buddy was kind of thinking the same. So we showed up, and because we won some, won some adrenaline, a little bit of adrenaline, not too crazy. We show up, and now this place is the real deal. They got lost fingers from previous years. And it's just in the bayou. Like, the guy that was teaching us was like, he was like a Steve Irwin clone. This guy has like a busted meniscus, and he's like teaching us how to wrestle these gator. And they start us off on these really small ones that are probably like only up to your forearm. And they're just teaching you the technique about getting under their neck, and like, where gators are vulnerable, how they can't really turn their neck to bite you. So as long as your like legs are vertical, if they try to bite you, it's just going to cut your side and not like sees you, and they're telling us all this stuff, and then they have us hold these things, and they're just full muscle. I mean, you are just holding on for dear life with these just a small
I
gator.
saw one of the ones you
Crazy.
had, and he was massive, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
I mean, he would take your hand or leg off the size of him.
yes, it was it. And so yeah, we graduated to the big gator pit, which you know, we were with someone else at the time, and he bowed out, but he's like, only like maybe less than 1% of the people go to the big gator pit. And me and my friend, kind of took that as a challenge. We're like, we're going to the big gator pit. We go to the big gator pit. It's just a swamp. It's just a straight swamp. And there's gators, all those big gators, about 12 foot, 250 pounds, just lining the whole pond. And they're just like jumping in. And this guy's just casually walking by him. And since he had a torn meniscus, he had another guy. And he just points at the gator and he says, go get him. And this dude, dead sprint, runs off after this gator and jumps into the swamp, and just like they're like in the swamp wrestling for like 10 seconds. He just comes out with this 250-pound gator, and we're like, there's no way we're doing this. But we didn't do the whole running and jumping in, but we each wrestled the gator in the mud, and brought it out, and
what I
it
found
was ridiculous.
strange is it's like I can understand the craziness of doing that if there's just like one gator, but the rest of them are kind of in the water as well, or on the side. Like,
Yeah,
would they not just decide, hey, let's attack this guy as he's wrestling one of our friends? Or it's kind of strange that they don't go for you, isn't it?
no, it is. And he just talked about that the gators, their nature is so uh isolated that they have no like kinship to other gators, and they're very skittish. So if you're wrestling the gator, they aren't going to be other ones coming to help. And when I went on mine, because basically you can't see anything because it's just muck, so you're just wading around, with your feet, dragging in the muck until you feel one. Then you kind of got to reach down in the water and kind of feel the orientation, but you got to be careful because obviously it could, try to bite you. And once you feel the orientation, you got to get behind their back side of the tail and then jump where you think their back is, and then basically ride them till they're out of energy, because they don't have too much energy, so they expend it all. And yeah, so while I was on my gator, it threw me off, and then like another gator, which was just in the mud, just like came past my face, and that's when I saw like, okay, this is intense. But then I jumped back on mine, and the rest is history. Got some good photos, and yeah, there's the video of it is also crazy.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, awesome.
But
So
yeah, no,
with
it's
with the crypto, so I mean, like I want to talk about the ATM, Bitcoin ATM, and everything, but you might just tell me your full journey of crypto.
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess this is going to be for record, but I first got exposed to Bitcoin in 2014. I was actually buying Bitcoin so I could get a fake ID. I admit it here, but yeah. So that was when I first got exposed to it, and really is when I really got into Bitcoin and learning about the ethos of Bitcoin and learning about crypto, and then really just became obsessed with it. Was that 2016 when Bitcoin's price started to rise, and like, I heard about this Bitcoin thing. I think I still have some. And I noticed how, it increased in value. And I was like, there's something to this. And that's really what spurred it. And from then on, I was hooked. Both from a philosophical standpoint and obviously, some investment standpoint. But yeah, and then, Bitcoin ATM and the
So what's the whole ATM thing? That's basically one of these machines that you put in your normal money to get the kind of link to the code to put on your thing. Because I've never done it with the ATM, so you might explain it to me and how the whole thing works.
No, yeah, it is kind of looks like a regular ATM, and instead of getting cash out, you get Bitcoin. You put cash in, you get Bitcoin out. For most of them, there are two-way ones, but those are kind of more rare and less used. But so I had a partner that was also in the Bitcoin, and thought, let's do a Bitcoin ATM. There's none in our town, and it's a way for people to get Bitcoin kind of anonymously versus, signing up an exchange and giving all their banking information, their identity. Like, we just want to give people a way to just buy it on the spot in cash, no problem. And so yeah, we started we started with one and eventually grew to several, and it was a very it was very intense and ended up being a very successful business. I don't run it anymore, but uh, yeah, customer comes to the ATM, they have cash, they say, they insert the cash and then they just scan their Bitcoin wallet and sends them the Bitcoin for obviously a fee, but it's a pretty simple, intuitive process, and I like it because it's a way to get Bitcoin immediately and kind of without the whole KYC infrastructure. But it was a crazy business to run at the time. Just dealing with banks and the cash, and we had to move banks like 3 times, and it, it was crazy. I was trying to do this while I was nuclear medicine intern, so I was like, driving down back and forth, emptying the ATMs, depositing cash in the accounts, and but it was really rewarding, and it kind of gave me that first taste of I got to run my own business one day. um, just the freedom and I'm definitely a person that has some authority figure uh, issues if the rules don't make sense. Something doesn't make sense. Why are we following it? Well, because I said so. Well, that's bad. So being, having your own business, if the rules don't make sense, you change them. So yeah,
No,
that's
totally agree with you.
I
Was
mean,
there
yeah.
yeah, definitely. And was there like an exchange system that you work through that everybody does, or must every single person set it up themselves?
If you're the big players, you can, you have basically a Brinks truck. You have a Brinks truck, and you're on major exchanges. So we did go through. So we had 2 exchanges, Coinbase and CoinSquare, um, that we used for the bulk of our purchasing. And also Paxos, ItBit. So we used major exchanges, but the trickiest part for us was the depositing the cash part. Banks are just allergic to cash, especially when you're bringing in, we moved up in volume quite readily. The first month, I remember the first transaction when someone bought $50 of Bitcoin, I was like over the moon. I was like, oh my gosh, someone's using this ATM to buy $50 of Bitcoin? Like, this is crazy. Well, we ramped up from probably like about 5,000 the first month to the last month that I ran it, we were doing about 250,000 in cash. And walking into the bank with $110,000 in cash is not they do not look upon that friendly. It's very suspicious. Even if we had a relationship with them, we never really hit that threshold for the banks to be like to consider us a real big player, or a real serious player. So it was always difficult, kind of dealing with that front and their suspicion. And we tried to do everything that we could to affront that, but yeah, regulation's regulation, and banks are businesses, and they kind of view it as, well, we're gonna have to put someone on your account, oversee it. We're gonna have to spend these resources with compliance and sending all your reports to the government. It's just not really worth time. So we're gonna move along, and so that's why we ended up having to switch banks a few times. But
And were people able to use it with credit cards as well, or did it have to be cash?
no, had to be cash. Yeah, we didn't use credit cards. Just on the basis that if you used it on the credit card and then you said it was a false transaction or something, you already got the Bitcoin. We can't take the Bitcoin from you. We weren't a big enough kind of enterprise, and then credit card companies also didn't want people buying crypto or Bitcoin on credit. So yeah, all strict
And
strictly
plus their
cash.
fees as well, because I mean, most of them, MasterCard,
Yeah,
they take about 3%, which I mean, obviously you were trying to get as much margin as you can. So when they're paying cash, you can get a bit more. But if these
exactly.
are taking 3% out of your spread, I don't know what you charge on typical thing, like, but I mean, I wouldn't say it could be massive, like, for people to actually want to use it as opposed to go to an exchange.
Yeah, no, the margins were, and this is part of the, it's about the timing. So I remember when I started the business, I was pretty broke. I was an intern, unpaid intern in nuclear medicine, and the timing of it. So it was the 2018 bear market, just at the lows when Bitcoin was sitting at 3,500. No one wanted to talk about crypto. No one liked crypto. But it was all about timing. The opportunity was there. And if I had waited another year and a half, that business wouldn't have been successful. So, and the margins were, and that had to do a little bit with the margins. I was like, there's going to be more competition. More people are going to get on exchanges and have lower fees. I'm like, this is the chance to get in where your margins, you can charge it. I think we were charging 8%, 8.5%, where they can still be pretty healthy. Whereas, we wait a year and a half, that's going to completely change.
I think it's around, because I know there's ones in the city. I mean, I think it's around 4. I don't know what it is in the States, like what the kind of, for the ATMs, what's the kind of, the margins have come down, I'm assuming. Yeah,
they have come down, especially with, so many larger companies just flooding with ATMs. I would say the average is probably around 4 to 5 in that range. So yeah, it's all about timing, as it is with kind of any industry that just moves as fast as crypto does.
exactly.
It's all about timing, and it's all about
the mining as well, so which is timing as well. So I don't know when you got into the mining and what kind of mining you were doing.
Yeah, I was. If anyone's out there, well, Antminer S9 is when I first got into it. Again, 2018 bear market. Now, the mining story is kind of funny. So I was also, this is while I was doing the ATM stuff. I was in nuclear medicine, unpaid, and I actually kind of found a loophole where I was living in public housing. $50 a month, my own apartment, all utilities and rent, $50 a month. It was incredible. And so I was talking to the manager of the whole building. This is probably a 100-unit building. And I asked him, like, are these units metered separately, or are they metered by floor? And he's like, oh, they're metered by floor. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I went out on eBay, and Bitcoin, of course, had collapsed. Mining had collapsed. Bought S9, and then if anyone's out there is a miner, the L3++, which is the rare version of the script miner, but bought the Bitcoin and Litecoin miner, script miner, and started running them in my apartment. And it was free electricity, right? $50 a week. So I was siphoning off over probably like $200 of electricity a month to mine. But the thing was, this is a small apartment, and so the noise, the decibel level, all the neighbors were really old, because it was kind of more geared towards old people. So the noise wasn't an issue. I built like these noise boxes, but it was still like set, 80 decibels, just
wow,
24 hours a day. And it took me about 3 weeks to like learn how to sleep with that noise going on, because it was just so loud. And then also, in winter, it gets those machines generate so much heat. I didn't even use my heater all winter. I kept my window open.
So you saved the landlord the money back.
Yeah, I saved it back. Yeah. And I got a complaint one day. The floor manager or whatever came up to me and was like, listen, people are talking about how your window's open all the time during winter, and this is Wisconsin winter, so it's like 10 degrees out. And he's like, are you just wasting, I'm like, no, I run a bunch of computer equipment, and I actually don't even have to use my heat at all. And he's like, oh, okay, sure. And so I really took advantage of it. And I actually went back, because it was public housing. So I went back, and after I had done well with business, I had donated, about $500 or $1,000 back, to kind of, just pay it forward, because, it helped me when I was kind of in a position, and now that I was doing very well, I was able to give back. So yeah, I wasn't completely heartless there, but
no, I mean, yeah, you availed of the situation that you had.
So,
yeah. And so what's kind of the craziness going on in the last couple of weeks with FTX? I mean, that's obviously shaking a lot of people's businesses. So how is it affecting you?
Yeah, it's not affecting me, other than new clients always have questions about, is Bitcoin safe, or is crypto going to zero? This FTX thing I think it's the biggest thing since I've been in the space. Just on the terms of I think it set back the industry and the dialogue. Um, it regressed it quite a bit, just with people not trusting it, viewing it as a scam. The regulatory space, uh, it's very tough, and it touches so many different firms and gets so high politically and regulation wise that yeah, this is gonna hurt. And things are just kind of not adding up with everything related to FTX. Now that it's gone bankrupt, just to see how poorly it was run. It was like it's almost run to the point where it's like, were they trying to blow up? Because this is the most poorly run organization I've ever seen. I don't know how you could run this whole situation worse. It's like they were like purposely trying to blow up. I mean, it was just it's kind of incredible. So the FTX thing is really bad, and I do think in the end it does show some of the difference between the technology and the industry, right? You know, people should associate that the technology of Bitcoin and where Bitcoin's going is separate from some of the industry players that are trying to push Ponzi's or push certain projects that are not going to work. But the FTX thing is a huge debacle, and it's not over yet. There's still more revelations to come.
Yeah, if you look at the kind of loophole between Gary Gensler and somebody else in MIT and his daughter dating him, and I mean, this is going into government level where you, like, for example, you have to be regulated for what you're doing. You're stuck, because I believe it's Wisconsin and somewhere else. Like, you're not able to do the full states, which is that's strange that you can't. Yet you're being regulated by the crooks.
Yeah, no, it's absurd. I'm based in Oregon and Wisconsin. I do accept clients from all over the country now. I'm just limited to how many clients I can accept from different states, at least right now. But yeah, I'm regulated, and I'm trying to follow the rules to the best I can. Now I'm obviously on the edge, because investment advisors dealing directly with crypto. I think I'm the only one in either state that is doing that. So it's definitely a small a small field, but yeah, all the connections, everything from I think FTX was running Ukraine's crypto donations, and they took in about 60 million, and oddly enough, about 50 to 60 million was donated to the Democratic campaign from FTX. So this goes deep. Now it's easy to get to full conspiratorial mode, that this was an organized kind of money laundering, kind of a money laundering scheme, but it requires a lot of very competent people doing very competent things, and I tend to think that's impossible. But there is something deeper in the surface.
And
it
it's
reaches
a shame,
up high,
because I can see that blockchain can be kind of the saving grace, where it cuts out a lot of the middlemen and everything and pays the artist. But when things like this happen, it scares away so many people, because there's so much press about it. No, the old thing, crypto bad, use credit cards, and it's like so.
Yeah, it definitely does that scary thing, and again, it's trusting that centralized player. Like, something that was really interesting for me is when all these things blew up, all the decentralized lending was fine. MakerDAO, all those loans got repaid first, because they had to put up collateral, and it was all straight rules and numbers based, where, if they didn't pay back the loan, they lost all the collateral. So versus like centralized finance, you trust the central exchange, keep all your money there, they can run off of it, not your keys, not your coins. So yeah, blockchain, it has the opportunity to solve it, but people still tend to trust the centralized players, which is the vulnerability that we were trying to get away from. But I think FTX blowing up, people like finally woken up and been like, oh, I can't trust these centralized guys. So and something else that's just crazy about this whole Sam Bankman-Fried thing is, he's going on the New York Times panel in a week and a half, with the Secretary of the Treasury, Mark Zuckerberg, head of BlackRock, like the top of the top. Even after he's just defrauded people of billions, like he's going to go on this New York Times panel and go talk about crypto. It's really, really quite crazy. So, steal billions and you can go talk with the most powerful people on the New York Times panel. And
yeah, as somebody said one time, yeah, they don't arrest the billionaires because I forget there was something else recent. Oh, that was Robin Hood. Like you could tell that was all orchestrated as well. And
yeah,
it was a Citibank or whatever. And it's like, yeah, they don't arrest. They were lying. You could see they were reading a script. How they were allowed to do that on court, I don't know. The whole thing is just rotten to the core. But
yeah, it is, but I'm very hopeful for the future because of Bitcoin and crypto and the space as a whole. I think if it wasn't for Bitcoin or crypto, I would have a very bleak outlook on the future. But I think there's so many good people trying to build awesome things in the space and really progress humanity that it does give me hope. So.
No, yeah, I agree. So how does your system work for the people that invest with you? What's the way it works?
Yeah, so I'm a registered investment advisor, so I do the whole gambit, the whole suite of from a retirement to 401ks, Roth IRAs, individual portfolios, and then obviously I have the specialty in digital currency and digital assets, so clients can get direct, if they provide me with assets and invest under me, I can get them direct exposure to Bitcoin or other tokens that I deem good fits, or they can get a customized portfolio with kind of emerging technologies and kind of more high growth focused. So that's how it works for me. Now, a lot of the crypto exposure that I get for people, people don't want to do the research. There's a lot of misinformation out there. They're just like, I think that this is going to be, very big and important, but I don't know how it works. I don't want to get scammed. I don't want to pay attention to it because it's so volatile. You see something down 30, 40%, you start getting emotional about it. Whereas kind of out of sight, out of mind, to where, that long-term thesis can kind of come into play and you can, get a solid return on your investment. So that's how my practice works. And I also partnered with a company called Echo Trader that basically you can copy trade investment advisor portfolios. So I have a portfolio on Echo Trader that I have an equity position in that is basically my own personal portfolio, and you can go to Echo Trader and see what I'm doing, and then you can copy trade through that. So that's a whole brand new service. Basically, the Echo Trader kind of came out, and you have a bunch of retail and just regular investors that aren't getting seen by investment advisors because they don't have a certain amount of capital, right? You have to have 40,000 to for us to manage your money. Well, this is kind of a alternative to that, to where you don't need a huge amount of capital to get exposure to this expertise of an investment advisor. So yeah, that's a little bit about my practice,
okay.
and I love it. I love it.
Not brilliant. I'm just curious with the pensions, not just in your team, but in the US in general, because in Ireland, everyone was kind of pushed, put your own pension, it's like, yeah, before tax kind of thing. And every year you just see it. It's like they're telling you, yeah, if it goes up 6%, 8%, it's all a lie. They're giving you crappy returns. And no, because I turned 50 not so long ago, and you're allowed to get 25%. And I'm 2 months chasing these, and the amount of questions they're giving, so I have to get onto the revenue. The revenue can't even give me the answers to it. And when I'm checking with other people, they're all saying, yeah, I was expecting it to be a lot better. Because even if you were getting a 5% compounded return, you'd have decent money. And the whole thing is a big scam. They're using the money to invest in other things, but you're the loser all the time.
Yeah. It is a big scam. You're not getting good returns in those systems. It's not keeping up with inflation. And yeah, if you had had that money and you invested in yourself, you would have been doing much better. But there is this kind of push, and of course, there are some people that just never think about investing. You hear about people that are 65 retired and they haven't started investing. So I guess there is a small subset of the population that if they didn't have that, they would have never done any investing, and then they end at 65 or 70. But for a vast majority of the people, they're losing out. They could have done much better investing. And the recent UK pension almost blow up with the jumping of the interest rates. These pension funds are not managing properly. The UK pension fund scenario was basically because of low interest rates. Because of low interest rates, they weren't able to generate the return they needed to meet their obligations. So, when you can't generate the return, they lever up. So they were levering up their bond side to kind of make up for that low yielding interest rate environment to try to get that return for people, at least something. And then, when interest rates started to rise, all those bonds started just falling in value precipitously, and they're levered up, and all of a sudden they're getting margin called. And that's where we saw the Bank of England was probably like a month ago pivoted and said, we're going to keep interest rates, provide money, try to save the pension funds, because some of them were just going bust because of that whole leverage scenario and the crazy rise in interest rates and proportionally. So yeah, it's a tough world out there. And I can't, with certain retirement funds, I can't get exposure to certain assets, but I am flexible in what I can do. So
excellent. And with NFTs, then have you played around with the NFTs?
I have definitely on the personal front. I have not, and can't do anything for clients as of now in regards to NFTs. But on the personal front, yeah, I actually went to Galaverse in Malta this summer, and to get a better sense of the play to earn in the NFT gaming space. But and then obviously I've done invest in NFT projects, interacted with them. I think that NFTs get a bad rap in the general public, and most of the NFTs out there are going to zero. Most of the space is, there are some scams, and some of there's no use for some of it. But I think NFTs as a whole is here to stay and is going to be huge down the road. If you just look at one, I think of NFTs in like three kind of categories right now. Is the high end art. People are like, why are you paying, $1 million, $40 million, $10 million for a digital art thing, JPEG? And I'm like, it's not about high end art. It's not about the picture as much about the status of the ownership. How many people have a Monet painting in their house that's like just a knockoff, like a $20. It's the same thing. You could copy paste or that, but it's not about that. It's about the status and the knowledge that you own it. So the high end art thing always going to be there. Great use for NFTs in my opinion. The NFT gaming space, I think, is poised to grow massively. If you just look back and say like, well, what if you were able to own a Fortnite skin? What if you were able to own a Fortnite skin and trade it on a marketplace? Some of those early season Fortnite skins, you play the game, you invest, I was early season Fortnite. You invest 100, 200 hours in the game, get a couple skins. I mean, some of those skins would be worth thousands today if they were NFT based, and create a whole kind of digital economy around the game. And I think NFTs in gaming are going to be a big thing. And then just the collectible perspective, you can create something with your audience or your brand, and build something out that's really cool. Like if Justin Bieber came out with an NFT that you got exclusive access to concerts or backstage, or there's so many different things that you can do with that I think people are very creative and very ingenuitive, and we're going to see some crazy things coming out in the next few years. But it's crypto winter, so now is the time to build, and now is the time also to kind of see what's going to be there down the road. Who's actually making progress in their projects and who's got cool stuff that they're working on.
Oh, absolutely love it. So finally, your book is about to come out.
Yeah.
You might tell me what's it about.
Yeah, we got a lot of subjects to touch on here today. This is fun. Um, yeah, the book is coming out. It's called Manifest Destiny. It's a fiction book, mystery thriller category, kind of character driven uh, psychological thriller. I actually I came up with the idea for the book. I was drinking one night, and I thought this would be a good idea for a movie. I could see like an Edward Norton type playing the. I don't know if you know Edward Norton.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, from Fight Night.
Fight
Or
Club.
Fight
Yeah.
Club.
My
Fight Club.
favorite film, Fight Club. It just every time you watch it, you see a different angle to it.
Yes, it is. It's a masterpiece. And so I had this idea of this grittier kind of guy in my head. But I thought of the story and I'm like, oh, I think this would be a good movie. But I can't do a movie. I don't have the budget or the expertise, but I can write a book. And so that's what I did. I spent about 6 years and wrote a book from that idea that I had. And it's finally out there and published by Blackstone, and I'm really excited for it. The advanced reader copies have come back. People really liked it, so um, it's cool. I'm very excited and proud of getting it out there.
Yeah, I wish you super success, and I hope somebody makes a movie out of it. So then you'll be part
Yeah,
of that.
yeah, that would be awesome. Of course, there's like a 0.01% chance, but I at least at the end of the day, I can look back and say that I did it, and I gave it my everything. So it's very character driven. But I guess I'll give a quick kind of the plot synopsis, quick plot synopsis, and we'll move on to more topics. But basically, the main character, his father was kind of everything in his life, his idol, his who he wanted to be, kind of his world. And his father was murdered when he was a teenager. The main character kind of builds a lot of grief and anger and resentment from that event. Kind of fast forward to his adulthood, and he kind of decides with his friend, who's a police officer, that to kind of get the closure that he needs to really move on, he wants to discover who did it. And so his friend kind of reopens the investigation, and that's the kind of underpinning of the storyline. And then the main character is dealing with a lot of issues, and he goes on some we'll just say some journeys, some adventures, and but also has quite the character arc through the whole deal, and kind of starts reconnecting and moving on with his life. And then the conclusion, everything kind of comes together in a kind of big bang. And it's a lot of fun. So I'll have to send you a signed copy.
Oh, yeah, I would love to. Yeah, sounds interesting.
You got the bookshelf. Yeah, you got the bookshelf.
Yeah, I read over 100 books a year. Like, I love reading. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So just finally, because I had something else down there. Bitcoin Beach. What's that?
Yeah, Bitcoin Beach is in El Salvador. It's called El Zante. It's kind of where that whole push, Bitcoin adopting in El Salvador, Salvador making it one of their national currencies. That's where it all started, was on Bitcoin Beach. About 3 years ago, a couple benefactors and then a couple other people moved down there to try to establish a local economy run on Bitcoin, and using the Lightning Network. So the Lightning Network is going to be the future. As far as, when people are like, oh, well, Bitcoin, the on-chain transaction is, it's not conducive to buying a cup of coffee. Well, I can tell you that I went down to El Salvador and I paid for my coffee with Bitcoin on the Lightning Network, and it cost me zero. I mean, it cost me a few sats, but essentially it was less than a penny. And I did that a lot of different places down there. I probably paid for over 50% of everything that I bought in El Salvador at Bitcoin Beach in Bitcoin, which was awesome to see. But yeah, no, I traveled down to El Salvador to see, if the hype train, if it was real down there, or if it was just a bunch of hype and, fancy marketing, because it's halfway across the world. How do you know what's really going on? And if I'm going to be responsible for my clients, I have to make sure that, things are as they seem in certain aspects. And so went down there and it was amazing. The country of El Salvador is amazing. Um, I was surprised at how safe I felt all the time. Just like 10 years ago, El Salvador was like one of the most dangerous places in the world. And I was walking around at night, never a question of my safety. No one in the entire time I was there, no one ever came up to try to sell me something or like, you know, push me to do something, buy my, I felt like a local, and the culture was amazing. The food was awesome, and then of course just the influx of Bitcoin people there was incredible. A lot of good people from all over the world. Met someone from Poland that we got along really good. England, Japan, and everyone was there. It was interesting. Some people were there for Bitcoin and kind of seeing what was up and just trying to contribute. And then some people were there just because it was the only place that you didn't have to get a COVID test to get in. So it was the only place. There was this English couple that I was talking to. I was like, kind of, why are you guys here? And they're like, well, this is the only place that we could get in without taking a COVID test. I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. And they're just like, we just like that. There's freedom here. And I'm like, oh, fair enough. But El Salvador was amazing, and I the coolest thing when I was down there is like I was sitting in a restaurant one of my last nights of leaving, and there was a big table of us that kind of um, gotten to know each other some, and at least a third of the table was buying property in El Salvador, or like moving there permanently to like try to grow the country and ecosystem there. And I'm like, where else can you travel to? And the other tourists there are like, this place is so awesome that I'm gonna move here. I'm gonna build a business here. I'm gonna, you know, uh, it was pretty cool. So yeah,
Right.
Bitcoin Beach. If you are interested in checking out a place where it's actually happening, go there. And it's not like all rainbows and sunshine. It's not like you're in El Salvador has a long way to go, but it's very optimistic there, and they're on the right path. And including Bitcoin adoption, it's gonna take some time. Um, not everyone's versed in Bitcoin there. It's not like you to go there and everyone's going to be talking about, this deflationary monetary system that's, decentralized and, peer to peer. It's going to take some time, but the progress is really, really heartwarming. So.
Excellent. Yeah, it's fascinating. Wasn't aware of that, but that's good to know. So listen, thoroughly enjoyed our conversations. You might let people know, where can they find you?
Yeah. Well, you can find me, I think my socials will be in the description. Otherwise, you can check out my website, Zachary Daniel.com, my business, Digital Edge Wealth Management .com, or if you go on Echo Trader, you'll be able to find my profile there. Other places you can find me if you want to purchase the book, which it's the holidays. I think it'd be a great gift. It's available on all major retailers, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the big retailers. But yeah, people can reach out to me in any way they see fit, and I definitely will respond. So, but yeah, no, it's been awesome, Roy, and time's been flying.
Thank you very much. And I'll make sure that I put all the links both on the audio and the video.
All right. Awesome.
And also, just for those listening, I'm playing around with Spotify as well, because now I can kind of do the Joe Rogan style where the video goes up. So we're going to put this one up as well. So if you're a Spotify listener, you can actually watch the thing. And if you're not, you could just go across and have a look. And be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends. It all helps. And everything about me, my other podcasts, and the coaching can be found on bio.link/podcaster. Until next week, take care.